Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Small Town Underground. This is a special recorded interview today. I have a guest in studio with me. His name is Michael Gargiulo, and you might remember Michael. He is one of the campaign managers, the campaign manager for Colton Moore for his campaign for Congress. And he's also been on the show before. He ran for office. Was it Gwinnett County, I believe?
State Senate 9, yes, sir.
State Senate 9. And so we've had him on the show before. He's been to some of our events, and he stopped in Lafayette today and wanted to come by the studio. So you're more than likely seeing this in our normal 9 o'clock slot because I took the evening off. We got some other stuff planned coming up very soon, what I'll let you know about. So I really want to just welcome Michael into the studio, and we're going to get into some of his background and where we're at right now and why he came to town. So Michael, welcome to the show.
Roy, thanks for having us.
Yes, sir. You've been a very busy man, so you're pretty much all over the place right now, right?
The 14th's a big district, and we're doing our best to take care of it.
Yes. Okay. Well, for folks that don't know you, I've developed a relationship with you. We've talked on and off. You have helped us, especially last year, and when you were working down at the Capitol with a lot of the legislative session. You guys were really, keeping in touch with us, sending us texts about the bills going on. We've kind of felt like we've lost some of that this year, which is okay. We've got a lot of people that have picked up that slack while all this is going on. But tell the audience, give us a little bit of your background.
Sure. So Michael Gargiulo, I've been working with Colton since high school. Basically, we went to UGA together, and we enjoyed just getting into politics, I would say, around 2018, and ran his first House campaign. He became the youngest legislator from Dade County in history. Yeah. Ran that campaign as well with him. We ran the most cost-effective campaign in the country, the state at that point. Right. I think we could, if we win this campaign, when we win it, being spent outspent 5-1 right now. I think will probably be one of the most cost-effective congressional campaigns in the country as well. So we've been running together a long time. Colton's a great conservative, as you know. Not here to share lip service today, just here to talk about our track record. Hopefully encourage the people to support and vote for Colton Moore and shed some light on why that's the case today.
Okay. Before we kind of get into that, I do want to talk just a little bit because, Colton's been our representative for a while. And last year at the Capitol, we witnessed like some of the craziest stuff we've ever seen. Basically, to set the background, he was being punished by not being allowed to enter the House chamber due to the comments that he made while in session about the late Ralston, Speaker of the House Ralston, which is largely been kind of, backed up by, the things that he's done in the past with these legislation involving placating these cases for sometimes up to 10 years. And Colton used his time on the floor to speak about it, and he was punished. So just kind of give us a little bit of refresher on that.
Sure, and I know that's a long-winded situation that the folks certainly need to go and do their own research on, but as you mentioned, Colton spoke against, he was the only person speaking against a building being named at the University of North Georgia after the late David Ralston, who was a former speaker in Georgia for a long time and considered to probably be one of the most powerful legislators to sit in the Capitol in modern Georgia history. And folks didn't like what he had to say. He brought attention to roughly 1,000 legislative leave. Basically this law that David Ralston developed to allow him to delay his cases as a practicing attorney and his private work. And he would just say that, hey, I'm still here doing my legislative duty. I know these clients of mine are being called on the calendar, but you need to delay this because I'm not able to be in court. As you just mentioned, he did it sometimes upwards of a decade. And folks felt that was not right in many different cases. And when Colton spoke against that, not only, in my opinion, did he get censored off the well by the lieutenant governor at the time, he wasn't able to finish the rest of the speech for the people. And ultimately, the building did get named after him at the University of North Georgia. So, Mr. President, at the University of North Georgia, you've got a guy who defended using manipulation of the legislative leave law These people were rapists. These people were, in some cases, drunk drivers that resulted in people dying. And you now have a building named after the guy who shielded these people from due process. And that was unfortunately what led to the speaker unlawfully, trying to keep Colton out of the Capitol chamber. And Colton inevitably told the Supreme Court the day before, the Attorney General the day before, the Speaker's office the day before, and a handful of other folks that he was going to peacefully fulfill his obligations. I think it was House Resolution 4 at the time that permitted the entire House and Senate to come together in a joint session. And they had these two goons out front and who were not law enforcement and just started battering and assaulting the senator, a sitting state senator, getting thrown to the ground basically for retribution of his free speech. And we begged the lieutenant governor, we begged other folks in the Senate to not bring this resolution because we knew we have to speak truth to this. There's only one time you get to speak on these things often, which is the case. You don't get to, just belabor the same point over and over again at the Capitol. And the one time he speaks, it, led to a pretty sad situation, which is still unfolding. Colton's still out on bail.
He's still on bail.
You as a bondsman, you probably know that process a bit better than others, but we're still wading through that.
It was pretty wild. I feel like, and I wanted to kind of bring that up because there's a lot of talk about, I watch in these groups, about what has our state senator done for us, and people think that he's a big showboater, and people think that he does these things because he's trying to get attention. We've even had people like Marjorie say that before. And I look at this because I try to look at what our representation is supposed to be, right? And when you see a legislative session going on in a state where your legislators are pushing some upwards of 400 bills at one time, and there's so many things going on that you can't even keep track of it. It's like, no, somebody needs to put the brakes on this, right? Like we're at this gold rush to just throw all this stuff together, and we don't even know what it is. And it's like, I like people who say, hey, we need to stop on this. We need to read this stuff. We need to look at it, see what it is. Is it constitutional? And I feel like that Colton has done that. But a lot of critics say no. What would you say to that?
I mean, I would say if you're judging somebody by the amount of regulations that they pass on to the people, you probably got it a bit backwards. Colton brought a lot of awareness, and we killed a lot of bad bills. Granted, our tactics may have not been, everybody's favorite to some degree, but he was a lone dissenting no vote on countless votes and bills. And I remember one, it was with, something the First Lady of Georgia had done, and she was ticked off at Colton because her bill didn't pass unanimously. And there was just that unfolds with everybody. You were the no vote on my bill, and there's this petty politics that develops around it. But what I would underscore is Colton has the most conservative voting record in modern Georgia history. The only other one that maybe comes close would be Matt Gertler, if you can remember him. He's now the chief of staff up for Thomas Massey in Congress, and those two, really nobody else comes close to. Right. So if you want to look at the folks who are regulating the people and saying, hey, you passed 10 bills and you took away, X amount of freedoms and you raised our taxes, which is what most bills do. They take away freedoms and they raise your taxes one way or another.
They do.
And instead, we should be looking at what bills and laws have been killed and repealed.
Absolutely. That's my point.
But folks don't look at it that way because we get whitewashed, when you start stopping the powerful's agenda, from getting through like they want it through.
Well, and you bring up another good point. The more that we delve into this sort of the political theater, we realize that it's not about the merit of the legislation. It's about the quid pro quo. It's about you could have legislation on the table that, hey, we've got this thing that cures cancer, but they will block that if you don't play ball with them. And we're sitting out here looking like, when did we stop focusing on what was the best policies, the best principles to bring forward, and just can the rest of it?
A lot of it unfolds each year with the budget vote. So really the only constitutional duty the legislature has is to pass a budget. Colton being the only dissenting no vote in the Senate on the state budget. Not just the big budget, but the little supplemental budget too. And all of these other senators and most of the other House reps are saying, oh, the government is doing a great job at spending our money. There's 56 senators, and Colton, the youngest senator, is the only one saying, no, hold on, let's slow down here. A good example would be, you hear everybody right now talking about eliminating the state income tax, right? Colton has been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
We've had legislation to fully repeal the state income tax for years.
Right.
Then they said, oh, Senator Moore, we can't fully repeal the income tax because we don't know where we're going to get the money from. Okay, well then how did Tennessee figure it out? How did Florida figure it out? And I'm not saying those are, exactly the way that Georgia needs to do it, but now because it's election season, you hear all these statewide candidates, saying, we're going to eliminate the state income tax for the citizens. It's time. It's time. So same thing happened with constitutional carry. Colton was speaking about constitutional carry. We love the Second Amendment. At the time, there was no constitutional carry in Georgia. And years after that got brought to light, and him putting that forward, it inevitably got passed. So sometimes we got to look at these victories in the span of history, not necessarily like in the span of a session. And that can be, the average voter is... we're taking care of the family, we're taking care of the house, we're trying to get things done. Yeah, we want to, pay less taxes, but the nitty gritty of all of this unfortunately gets missed if you're not in the weeds of it. And like you said, there's thousands of bills and resolutions that come through in a 40-day session. So
absolutely. So I'm glad you reached out to me. I have this video, and we'll kind of end this segment and go into the next with, this was some, or at least to me, never before seen footage that went through the other day. And I want you to, I'm only going to play just a little bit of this because I understand there's some language. He gets pretty irate with you, but I wanted to show this to the viewers because I was like, whoa, this is wild. And then I want you to just kind of give us a little bit of context here about what happened. So let's go ahead and pull this up, and then we're gonna play this, just a little bit of it. So here you are, talking with the HR director.
Because if it's some
Donald
constituent
Cronin
out there, I'm just trying to think what they would do.
yeah,
what would be the nature of the communication? I'm just trying to wrap my head around.
well, let's just back up. Where would somebody go to make a complaint against the person that works for the state?
Did that person who works for the state do something to that individual?
Where would somebody go to make a complaint?
Playing
they'd
dumb.
have to be a victim of something. They could.
Okay.
There's just no general complaint. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What would they be complaining about?
They would be complaining about things that are potentially outside of HR policy.
So a state employee is engaged in conduct that they find inappropriate or something like that?
That could be the nature of someone's complaint.
So
sure.
I guess they would just contact their representative. I guess is typically how that would work, wouldn't it?
Sir, are you the director of HR for the Capitol?
Yeah.
And you look like, respectfully, I'm not trying to be rude, but you look like I'm speaking something that...
You're speaking gibberish.
Gibberish.
Do you understand what he's talking about?
HR complaint.
Stop your tone. She came to me because she didn't know what the hell you were talking about. So
Sir,
it's not me.
All
It's
right,
not
we're
her
going to
too.
stop
I
it
don't
there.
wanna-
I
I'm
know
trying to
this
wrap-
video has went sort of viral, but please tell what in the world is going on here. This guy, to me, seems like he's just trying to play dumb. Like you set that up for us.
So the senator got unlawfully arrested on January 16th, as a lot of folks know, for the speech about David Ralston. This video, I believe, was roughly a month and a couple days later.
Okay.
It went to the human resources office at the Capitol, in CLOB, and this gentleman tries to basically give us the runaround. And if you've been in politics for long enough, you know, you just kind of let people give you the runaround, and then you just continue trying to make your point. He tried to make me out for a fool. I think that's pretty clear. I don't know how that type of behavior is in charge of human resources. I mean, I was personally expecting to kind of, hey, step into my office. Let's talk about this. It's clear, you said yes, assault. I want to know about that. I want to get some details from you. Instead, it was just met with this, I don't even know, this trash. Mm-hmm. So it kind of just sheds further light, I think, on the corruption down there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks.
It's fake. It's bureaucratic, right? These people get appointed in these positions, right? And the state law mandates you must have an HR. You must, and it's a good old boy system. It's the thing we fight against every day.
It is, and at the time, I didn't know. I really just was trying to gather some detail for Senator Moore, and he's, given this complete runaround, and later after we learned that who his boss was. Take a guess who his boss is.
I'm going to say Brian Kemp.
Close.
Who?
The speaker.
Oh, John Burns. The guy works directly for John
Burns.
So
it clicked when all of that came into focus.
You can't make that up.
And, I mean, you can. Even then, you would have thought that there would still be a firewall between conflicts developing. And I don't know what you call how or he's acting. His assistant, Alyssa Martin, was in the room and witnessed all of it. It was embarrassment on the state. It was an embarrassment on them. I think it looks horrible for the speaker, and I'm embarrassed. I mean, I'm a younger person. I'm 34, and these people are the ones, running the place.
Well, I think it highlights that it's hard. It's kind of hard to take a lot of this seriously, right? When you're being serious about trying to fix something or trying to make something right, there's so many guardrails in place to protect the status quo, and that's exactly what we're seeing here.
And I don't think the folks have seen all of it. And unfortunately, bringing it to kind of today's point is people are saying that Colton was somehow still wrong in all of this.
Oh, yes. I still see that online.
I mean, on what planet are we when a sitting senator is doing his job, gets arrested, can't even follow up with Capitol HR to make a complaint? On what planet are we right now?
Agreed.
And there's years of situations like this that we've seen and endured, and unfortunately, not everything comes to light. But for whatever reason, the Lord has drawn this and a number of other situations out. I think the senator, at the time was very frustrated with how he was treated by the Georgia State Troopers, the Georgia Capitol Police. I even went to them and gave them a heads up that we've heard y'all are going to arrest him today. Mm-hmm. When we served the speaker's office a day before with a written notice that Senator Moore was going to peacefully fulfill his obligations, we then got word that the Georgia Building Authority was called by the speaker's office, somebody in the speaker's office, and they were told to resurrect those curtains.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
So if you can remember those curtains day, why would they want to resurrect curtains?
They weren't planning anything, right?
And you're in a public area, right? The Capitol's that part of the layout. That's a public hallway, and then they curtained it off. Well, they didn't want what they were planning or trying to plan to be seen, and thankfully, I'm not really a big AJC fan at the moment, but thankfully, Greg Bluestein's just sitting there with his film. Mm-hmm. And he actually broke the whole story to my
understanding. Thank God he was. They wouldn't let any of us back there.
They wouldn't.
They wouldn't even let you back there. I remember you got into sort of a, confrontation because you're like, hey, I work for them. I'm his chief of staff. You need to let me back there. They wouldn't even let you back there.
Yeah, I mean, we heard the basically the body slam of Senator Moore going to the floor, and outside the curtain with his wife.
That's right.
And we're trying to, we hear him getting assaulted, and we can't even get to him, and the guy's giving us the runaround. I want to say it was an officer.
It was an officer.
I want to say it was motor carrier compliance. I could be wrong, but I mean, they were all kind of to some degree in on it, whether they knew it or not.
They were
whether they knew it or
complicit.
not. Major Langford, that disgusts me still to this day. You watch a senator get thrown down, and I ask myself, is it his age?
Right.
If this was Steve Gooch, or this was John Kennedy, or this was Greg Dolezal, is this what you do the same thing,
Right.
Major Langford, or would you not? I don't really have a clear direction on how to think about that, and it disturbs me. It disturbs the people. I mean, today, yes, this comes up. I think the timing of it is unique because the people, the voters here in Northwest Georgia, still don't have clarity
Right.
on the criminal charge.
We still get a lot of people that say that this was all theatrics, and I mean, I was there that day. There was no theatrics involved in any of this stuff, and if there was anything, it was a plan set in place with the complicity to arrest him.
I mean, that will be determined by a jury in the end, and until Colton's criminal charge is dismissed, it's hanging over him. It's hanging over this campaign. It's disturbing to see how it's been manipulated and used. There are multiple laws that the folks should look at. Pull up 4510-1. That's our code of ethics law here in Georgia. Pull up 451-4, failure to investigate. If you see fraud or corruption and you're a state employee.
What, you mean like at the airport?
There's that one too. And
Right.
I've got something that I'm going to break here on the show for you that touches on that too. But, there's a lot of different laws that are there already on the books to protect people, to protect
Absolutely.
legislators, to protect our staff.
Yeah.
This guy, if my daughter was in the Capitol and she got assaulted and that's how she got treated,
Right. I understand.
I don't know. I'm from Gwinnett, so I know it gets down a little differently up here.
Right.
But I don't know many Northwest Georgia dads that would let their daughter be abused like that and violated like that.
No.
So,
absolutely not.
again, a lot of this is going to be up to a jury to be seen. Of course, it's going to be after the election. But if the people of Northwest Georgia want a fighter that has the most conservative voting record, there's only one candidate. Nobody else in this race comes close. I don't think anybody else actually has a voting record, much less a conservative voting record. Let's think about this I don't think anybody else has a voting record.
Right.
So how does that, basically the folks are voting on lip service.
Right.
And, I'm not one to tell folks how to vote, but you should be prioritizing the person's voting record. Put your personalities and politics and thoughts, aside. Don't throw them away. Put them aside. Look at the person's voting record.
Right.
And, Clay Fuller, obviously being a contender in the race, you were a district attorney here in Northwest Georgia where the senator was sitting at the time, and you witnessed this. Where were you? What did you do? What did you say? Kind of same thing with when President Trump got arrested down at Fulton County. Where were you? Senator Moore was there at the jail the day he got arrested, fighting to bring awareness to this. And it's sad how it's panned out in a large part. And I know
you bring up a larger point here. I've often thought that about, we have, whether it's DAs or we talk about constitutional lawyers, all these people that work in the justice system. And to live through what we've lived through in Georgia with just looking at the RICO case, right? The clown show of the RICO case. These situations where normal God-fearing people are getting their constitutional rights completely just stomped on. And I've said it on the show for years. Where are these constitutional attorneys? Where are these people? Where are these judges, these people that will actually stand up and make a stand for it? And it's like it's almost been non-existent. I mean, if I had that kind of power and knew that I had that kind of power to intervene, right? Because The exact opposite happens all the time, right? You'll get some liberal judge somewhere, some Democrat federal judge that will put an injunction in anything that, maybe Donald Trump's doing. But God forbid, if it involves something conservative or constitutional, nobody will touch it. I can't make sense of this.
Yeah, and it's sad because we're kind of living out potentially the last days of Georgia being a Republican controlled state, right? And I mean, that's why I got the hat on. People are like, well, what's this mean?
Rhino Wrangler.
It's a Rhino Wrangler, Republican in name only. When you have no voting record, when you weren't there, when, you're just now showing up on the block and telling folks you're going to do it significantly better, you're in name only right now. You have no legislative record.
Right.
And some people will vote for that, right? To all the Democrats out there who watch your show, and of course, Senator Moore represented a lot of Democrats here in Northwest Georgia. It's unfortunately shifting. This is the first time a Democrat is going to win, the special election.
They are. I mean, I think there's no question about that. Sean Harris will be one of the nominees going into the primary. So
it leaves room for one Republican, right? And now it's a shootout for the one Republican spot. And I think there's a misunderstanding going on at the White House with the people of Northwest Georgia. Okay. I think this goes back to even before Marjorie resigned. And folks I think if Marjorie was in this race.
Well, I think if Marjorie was still in this race, it'd be a no-brainer. And that's what's a little bit, We
would have never ran if Marjorie, because we liked her voting record. Marjorie had arguably one of the most conservative voting records in the country.
Well, that was the basis. I don't think Marjorie would have even had a problem.
People didn't like her antics.
I understand that.
But how do you,
But to call her a traitor, to me, is just like way overblown. Like, you've got to stop this madness. She's not a traitor, and she still speaks a lot of the language that I hear and listen to. Now, did she vacate this position? Absolutely. But again, whatever her reasons were, if Marjorie was running for this position again, despite the situation with her and Trump, she would have gotten elected again. And there's no question.
We would have never run. I mean, that's why Colton stepped up, is because he knew in order to continue the most conservative voting record here in Georgia, somebody like Colton, tried and true, had to run. And you've already seen this play out here with the endorsed candidate in the race. And look, we love Trump. I mean, Trump has done a lot of great things. Does that mean we love everything that Trump has done?
No, I'm certainly not. I'm pretty critical of Trump.
So, as much as we love him, I think in this particular set of circumstances in Northwest Georgia, there's a misunderstanding going on before this race even began. And now that misunderstanding is kind of unraveled even more. And I think in large part it is his advisors. When Colton got invited up to the White House for his congressional candidate interview, there was two of his senior Southeast advisors there. And I don't want to speak ill of the president or his staff. We're very sensitive to that. At the same time, you chose this guy that, basically will do what you tell him to do. And I think that people see that. I think Marjorie was not that person. And Trump's, wanting somebody that is more in that direction, or maybe his advisors do. I don't think Trump's put out a whole video for Colton, thanking him.
Sure.
Trump's retweeted Truth Social posts.
Right.
The only thing that this guy's got is like some, long-winded post that a staffer probably wrote. So, and it just so happened to come out, I think, around the same time that whole, the ape video came out on his, socials. So I don't know. It seems like somebody has access to his socials, and would we have preferred it to have been different? Absolutely. We'd prefer Marjorie to still be here,
right?
And we'd be down at the Capitol in session right now. But
yeah, I can't help but agree with that, Marjorie. I hate this jungle primary. Learning the history that we could have had the jungle primaries completely written out of law. And the fact that our Governor Kemp now was the one that vetoed that back in the 17s. I mean, it's like, what? Why are we continuing to allow these open primaries and jungle primaries where we can even get a field of candidates this big? You know, it's beyond me, to be honest with you. But
Yeah, and I think the 14th has felt a lot of pressure from that. I think, Chairwoman Jackie Harling has had her, got her hands full when you got 22 folks running all over the place, and she's trying to do her best.
Well, Jim Tully, he takes over the 14th, and then he turns around and ditches it to go run, and it's just like then it all gets thrown in her lap, and she's trying. I honestly believe she's doing the best she can to juggle all this, and it can't be easy.
No, I don't.
I'm just an outsider looking in, and I'm like, this is a whirlwind we have going on here. So
it definitely is, and we're only a few weeks out from the election now, which is we're thankful for that. Whatever the Lord's got wrote for this, we're here for it. We're here for the people. So there's definitely a groundswell of support for Colton. That's why he's put up all of the straw poll victories that he's had. There's how else do you explain that? How else do you explain the president spending millions of dollars to fly into town?
Yeah, that was certainly interesting.
I don't know. I wasn't involved, but how do you explain that?
Right. Yeah, and I'll tell you something else. We brought up Sean Harris about that. I was a part of the motorcade. I was honored to do that. Got to hang out with Peter Ducey for a while. But when we got to Rome, driving through Rome, I was a little bit taken aback with the amount of anti-Trump protesters there were in these different pockets, which you touched on it earlier. We're coming into an age in District 14 where it's not just so you just can't be the most reddest region in the state anymore. Like it's encroaching upon us, the rest of the state, that it's becoming purple, bruised. We are losing our foothold of conservative values in this state. That's
playing out everywhere in our country, unfortunately. And in Gwinnett, you mentioned running for state senate over in Gwinnett. We were out of options to get Colton a second no vote in there for him. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, let me stand up and run, knowing that the numbers weren't favorable. Gwinnett used to be 65% conservative, red. Right. Now it's 65% dim.
Mm-hmm. So the writing's on the wall.
And if we're not careful here in Northwest Georgia, I think there's a reason why Sean Harris has got so many folks consolidated into his camp right now. And 18 or 16 or whatever after the dropouts it is, all these Republicans are chopping up the red. We'll see how it plays.
We'll have to. We're going to assume now that voting's already started. It would probably be too late for anybody to drop out because they're still going to be on the ballot anyway, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. So.
Yeah, there's, I think, 25,000 votes or something around there right now thus far, and that probably puts the end result somewhere in the 60 to 75,000 vote range if we had to guess. But
probably. I know. Well, I think we had a problem in Walker County here, and I haven't even addressed it yet, but the problem here is that the early voting has always been at the courthouse. And so they just got done with their new voting, building that they've been renovating for however long. And most people don't even know that you should go over there and vote, because I had to look, and it's not at the courthouse anymore. You got to go down to that building. And many, many people do not even know that. So I don't know whose fault that is. It's partly I need to post that out there. So
yeah, the election locations, you can go to coltonmoore.com/vote.
Okay.
Everybody can easily just pull up their county, click, and it'll Google Maps you to the poll. But it's a lot. There's hundreds of precincts in this district on election day, so a lot of logistics to plan for. Thankfully, we have a huge volunteer team. We've never had this amount of support in the 6 or so campaigns that we've run. So it's been incredible to see how the Lord's wrote that up for Colton and the people. And I do think we're in good to great position. When you've got some people, some flinching going on, which I think there's a bit of flinching. I think there's some cracking going on in some other campaigns that we've seen that before, and that usually tells us we're over the target in some ways. So we'll see where it pans out here as early voting gets wound up.
Okay, so what do you guys have on your radar? What are you doing next between now? What's the big thing between now and the 10th?
So we're just making sure that the people understand the difference between Colton and all of the other candidates. And it just goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you want somebody with a tried and true voting record, there's only one candidate, and that's Colton Moore. That is doors, that's sign waving. We've got multiple teams that will be just making sure the district is well kept. We've unfortunately had a lot of theft go on of signs. As we were talking off air, people stealing signs out of people's yards, literally people's private property coming onto and stealing signs because they don't like that.
Yeah.
So
that's some of that old Dixie Mafia stuff,
The old Dixie Mafia.
And I don't blame anybody. This happened to my mother. She wanted me to do a public service announcement, and I did. And it had nothing to do with Clayton Fuller, but, that was really crazy how all that happened. And then I guess your campaign team brought some more signs out there and got everything put back up. But it was like, number one, I'm not touching that sign. I'm not touching anybody's signs. We've already covered that. But the hubris of basically paying these kids to go through, and you can tell they just rip them up. And then, God, I got a flood of comments from all over the place where people are just trashing signs. Look, we've been here in 40 years, never had a campaign sign ever touched and anywhere. This is new to me because we've supported our Sheriff Wilson here for decades, and nobody's ever messed with a sign. And like now, it's just like this is the battleground.
It's a battle, and unfortunately, there are casualties. We do our best to plan for it. A lot of folks get wrapped up in the drama and petty, of some pieces of this. Stealing property is not petty, but I mean, look, this is not an easy time for the voters. There's a lot up in the air. We've got lives to run too, and this election really wasn't planned for.
Sure.
So with everything else going on, how do you get your message out as to why Colton is the best candidate for the race? And it's just back to the basics, getting in touch with the people at the doors. I think we're coming up over, I won't say how many, but we've knocked thousands and thousands and thousands of doors. So very thankful to our team for that. And, we're in good position. Does that mean we can close it out and get second place over the hill there?
Right.
Or even first, to be seen. But we're excited. We're very excited. We are disappointed to see the state legislature not have a no vote for some of these pieces anymore.
Well, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. I mean, it's a much better legislative session than last year. I'll give him that. And we're keeping track. But, at the same time, I understand that. Look, we're all being put in this position, and it is blamed on this jungle primary. We need to stop this crap. We're not the only one in Georgia that is going through it. We need to take our elections more seriously. When we have our special elections more seriously, streamline this stuff where we get all the garbage out of it. It's all garbage, and it puts all of us in a position. Right?
Well, I'm glad you said it like that. This might be a good moment here, but I just wanted to show you some of the latest and greatest. We've got the arrest tracker. It's currently in beta mode right now. Okay. So I want to walk our viewers through. You talked about elections there. How many arrests have been in the 2020 election?
0.
All right. So we're down to the Fulton Fani arrest, 0 there. How many arrests in the Biden administration? Okay, we got 0 there too. The Biden auto pin, I guess that's still a goose egg. And then we've got Mayorkas in the Department of Homeland Security,
0.
who is responsible for basically letting millions of illegal aliens in.
Yes.
One of which murdered a young woman not even a half mile from where Colton and I used to live in Athens.
There you go.
Because they had a sanctuary policy. So,
yes.
We'll just, how many, you talked about the illegal airport.
Oh, the NGOs? No arrest on there.
We don't arrest NGOs. You got qualified immunity, I believe. And then, you get down here to the bottom, you get how many arrests with the Clintons, how many arrests with the Epstein files.
Oh, there's been 2, but both of them were in other countries and they've already been released.
Right. So you got charged. Yeah, that was funny, wasn't it? UK goes and gets the guy, and he's like out that night. Oh, we don't have a charge for you anymore.
Right.
I mean, who am I? I don't know all these things. It's way above my pay grade. But we do have one arrest. Right. We got the one.
We got one guy that was.
Golly.
It's crazy.
We got one arrest. So the arrest tracker, folks, it's in beta mode right now. We're using the latest AI poster board technology here, as you see. So just make sure you get a screenshot of this out to the people, and hopefully we'll get one somewhere else.
I mean,
on
hey,
here.
look, it's. Let's be honest with us here. We need every fighter that we can get up in Congress, and we don't. What I certainly do not agree with a yes man. I've never been a yes man, and I'm not calling out names. What I'm saying is that this is insane. And if Donald Trump thinks that somebody like me is attacking him for highlighting this stuff, we're trying to save this man's presidency, because the fact that we have zero arrest, zero accountability. What do you think is going to happen in November when we're sitting here talking about it? We are bruised. If the Democrats take over, the Trump administration will have no leg to stand on. And we've been down here in the muck this entire time saying, hey, do it, do it, do it.
And it was a campaign promise, right?
Promise.
It would be different if it wasn't. I think it's unfortunately, of course, the president and the administration knows some things that the public doesn't. I mean, whether that's, I don't know. I do know a lot of video files haven't been released.
Yes.
So whatever that is or isn't, I really hope that the country is not going to be worse off with where this goes. I think getting a special prosecutor in there, even now, would help the administration have some separation, because
Right.
it's just, Marjorie's divide over that particular issue is what led to here, and
right.
I think looking at what's happened even since she's resigned, the people can see that she's kind of over the target on some of these things. And
she's more over the target now than she ever has been.
And she's not in office anymore.
Not in office.
And
to me, part of me wants to say, you know what, you're irrelevant. You left us, right? But you can't ignore that. All right, you can't ignore that. And Marjorie, her story, and Trump's story, and everybody's story is going to keep going here. And we don't need to just shut these people off. We've got major, major problems here. I go back, and I know I'm rambling, but I go back to Minnesota, for crying out loud. The Somali daycare fraud. What has come about that? Why haven't we shut that entire state government down? Because a lot of people, they forget. How are these people able to operate in electronic funds in the first place if they're not allowed to do it? This is not just money laundering like the old days where they got the money bags. No, all of this stuff is being done through the governments, through NGOs, through electronic means, and they know it, and they provide these things for them. So yes, we have every bit of responsibility in our own state and local and federal governments to get rid of this. If you cut that off to begin with, they won't be allowed to do the fraud.
Well, and it's the same reason why, folks like John Burns and the guy you were showing earlier, what's his name?
HR
Donald Cronin, Donald Duck or whatever. These people are there. They act like this. They run this way because they've been allowed to. They've gotten to a place of comfort in their job acting this way. And whether it's in Minnesota, I know the Attorney General just announced a bunch of arrests coming out from that. So it is good to see that start to have some accountability, but it's not all doom and gloom out there, folks. We've got to remember that too, right? These are definitely serious issues. I think America is still the best country in the world by far, and I've traveled to a lot of countries. Been to Cuba, Pakistan, Malaysia, and everywhere in between. So I've seen what communism does. I've seen what socialism does. Not even close to the beauty and blessings that we have here in America. But does that mean good Christian men and women don't stand up?
Right.
That's why it frustrates me here. I go to church and I'll hear folks, I don't get involved in politics. I just love the Lord. And that's critical, loving the Lord, but also you have to have works that are of your faith. And if you're only having faith, I believe this is in James, your faith will show in your works, and your works will show in your faith. And so many people have stood back and just let the second and third rate folks take control of our state and country, that it makes sense why we deal with a lot of this. And thank goodness for President Trump winning that election. I think there's a lot of difficulty that he's still navigating, getting, things back to where he, was basically in his first term. But, we're one vote margin.
Right.
And this is something that Colton and I have already discussed at length. We win this thing, and then we go up to D.C. and, Colton's got the deciding vote on his entire agenda. Like, we didn't ask for that position, but now that's what it could end up being. And, we're just going to have to pray for guidance there. We don't believe in vengeance or retaliation in that way, even as much abuses and violations that we endure. But it's difficult to see. I think there's a lot of potential that we may not be living up to as a country right now. But like the scriptures also say too, in the end times, the lawlessness increases. I don't, is this lawlessness increasing for the folks?
Big time.
Looks like a little bit of lawlessness increasing. So Lord, help us and guide us. Folks, thank you for watching our segment here. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah.
Roy, it's been a real pleasure. I think the people are waking up to a lot of things. I don't think the people like being told what to do. I think Georgia, we lost the Senate. We've the GOP is fractured. We've lost Marjorie, the most conservative congressperson in the state. I just don't want a misunderstanding to turn into something worse, and that's why Colton stepped up and run. And folks, if you'd like to learn more about Colton, go to coltonmoore.com or follow him on X or Facebook, where you can just see the track record that he's got. Call it what you want, grandstanding or not. Colton's the most conservative track record and voting record, bar none, of anybody running. So if that resonates with you, we'd certainly love to have your support. Early voting's running right now. We've got the last Saturday early vote coming up, so get out and vote. And thank you for your consideration, folks, and thanks for having us on today, Roy.
Well, Michael, it's been a pleasure. It's always good to see you, and thank you for stopping by the studio.
Yes, sir. Thank you for doing what you do.
All right, folks, you heard it here. This is Michael Gargiulo. He's the campaign manager for Colton Moore. As I always say, vote your conscience. Early voting is going on right now. The special election will be March 10th. Do your research, do your homework, and pray about it. And thanks for being here for this special segment, and we'll see you guys soon.
The legislature legalized unverifiable voting in 2000.
Like you said to Trump, but they're getting beauty.
They said, go out there and rob these houses and bring back the bounty, and then that'll pay your way.
Because Republicans who get endorsement from Georgia carry that they mean anything.
You can't sit on the sidelines any longer. You must get involved in the game. This is your sign.